Hello everyone, it's Silvia. Welcome back to my channel. Today a very quick video, although I'm not entirely sure it's going to be quick because I have a lot of decks. But it's a video that I haven't done in months, and there's a reason. So this is a rehoming video, and I haven't done one in months simply because I haven't felt the need to do a big rehoming out of my decks. I did occasionally do that, especially when it comes to mass market decks that are very easy to source should I wish to buy them back. But today what I'm going to show you are decks that are a bit of a mix between mass market and indie decks. And if you're a member of my channel, you have access to this video first because I'm giving you the opportunity to reach out to me, and just in case you see one of these decks and you want it for yourself, so you have the access to this video before everyone else. So let's start, because as I said, there's a number of decks. And I'm just going to start without any kind of order. I'm just going to start with the minis. I've got 3 minis that I'm going to rehome. So let's just zoom in. This is the Rose Pocket Oracle by Rebecca Campbell. And yes, it is a mini deck. I have used this deck with my members when we were doing the energies of the week videos. I'm thinking maybe a couple of months ago. Currently in April we have switched to the Crystal Grid Oracle, which is really cool because I read the exercises, and so basically instead of just giving out a reading about the energies of the week, I also read the exercise for each and every card that I pull, which includes any kind of something that can really enrich your practice, as in self-guided meditation, for example, or I just pull for the air signs, the grounding, the Tree of Life grounding ritual, which is really, really cool. It's just that sometimes, like this deck, for example, I had a great time using it with my members, but then after that I don't really see any other use for it, and so that's the reason why I'm going to rehome it. And this one is the Colette Baron Reid the Spirit Animal Pocket Oracle. I have the full size of this one. I just wanted to check out the mini, and it's also because, let's face it, I did go through a minis kind of phase, and I don't mean to say that now my minis phase is over. It's just that when it comes to this Oracle deck, I actually do prefer the full-size one. The images are really beautiful. I really love the fact that we've got this particular art style, but also the name of the animals that we're looking at, and then there's a bit of a sentence related to them. So for the Nightingale spirit, we got love is all around. For the Otter spirit, you are never alone, and so on and so forth. And by the way, the Otter spirit, this just gives me the possibility to segue into the announcement that my partnership with Otter Spirit, which is the company that sells these really, really beautiful bracelets, have been, so my partnership with them has been prolonged until the end of June. So if you want to buy anything out of their website, it's obviously www.otterspirit.com. You will be able to use my promotional code, which is Silvia20, and you get a 20% discount. I have to say, I really, really love the variety that they have, and not just for bracelets, but also earrings and necklaces. And these are all fantastic, in many cases, AAA graded, ethically sourced crystals. So it's just really amazing. So moving on, I was saying, this is a really beautiful deck. I've got nothing against it, seriously. But it's not that... Okay, let's just make something clear, because I don't have anything against any of the decks that I'm going to show you in this video. It's just that for one reason or another, it's either my time with them has come to an end, and I really appreciate the fact that they have been in my practice, or I just don't resonate with them. And to be honest with you, it is something that we need to grow accustomed to. Sometimes decks just don't work for us, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's really nothing wrong with it. I feel like we live in a world in which even if we say something just not 1000% positive about something, it means that we hate it. No, I don't hate this deck at all. It's just that for me, it just doesn't work. This is the Wisdom of the Oracle Pocket Divination cards. This is also by Colette Barnard, and by the way, this is, I also have the full size of this deck. This is one of the oldest Oracle decks that I ever purchased, and I still really like it. It's just that when it comes to the mini edition, there's a couple of things that I don't really like, namely the borders. I mean, this is already a mini edition and the images are really nice, so I would like to see as much as I can of the images, and obviously the reaction to that will be, okay, but if you like to see as much as you can about the images, why don't you get the full size? I do have the full size, and so I just decided that when I want to keep one of the two, I will prefer to keep the full size one because I can see the images and they're just absolutely spectacular. So as you can see, I do have a lot of praise for this deck, just in specific, not the pocket version. I love this card in the full size. This is so beautiful, and I also believe that I can't recall, but I believe that the white borders are slightly less obtrusive, so I'm letting this one go. But as I said, the full edition is really absolutely amazing. Then moving on to other decks, but still mass market decks. So this one is the Cosmic Crossroads Oracle by Amanda Lynn Aisling. This one is also by Hay House. I used this deck a lot for my members, and we did use it for a whole month for the Energies of the Week videos. I just feel that I have a lot of decks that are collage with these kind of really beautiful cosmic vibes, and in particular this deck, for example, pairs up really well with the Nightweight Tarot. So if you have the Nightweight Tarot but you don't have this deck, you may want to have a look because it does pair up really nicely. It does have the same kind of atmosphere, vibes, energies, and also art style, as you can see. It's just that my time with this deck has come to an end. I have not pulled this deck ever since I finished using it with my members, not once, and I really believe that it's so well made that it does deserve for someone to appreciate it more than I do. And so because it is a very affordable mass market deck, very easy to find, I have no problem in rehoming it. And the same goes for this one, which is the Celtic Spirit Oracle by Nicola McIntosh. This one though is not by it's not released by Hay House, it's a Rock Pool release. I don't know what's going on with this deck, but this is my second copy. The first one was already warped when I received it. I rehomed it because it was really sort of damaged. This one was perfect when I received it, and now it's warped already. As you can see, it just dances on the table. I don't know whether it might be completely my fault, and I'm not saying anything against or about Rock Pool or the components that they use, perhaps the edging, the inks. I have absolutely no idea. It might be, you know, in my place, there might be humidity. I really do not know. However, this is the only deck that has arrived to my place completely straight and perfect, and you know, without absolutely no problem, and has become warped ever since. So I have no other deck that has been that has shown this kind of warping or bowing after I received it. So I really have no idea. It is a beautiful deck, however, but it really does drive me insane that it just doesn't lay flat. And this is not the reason why I'm rehoming it. It's just merely related to the fact that I now have a couple of decks that cover the space that this one was, and so I'm happy to use the other ones. And so that is also one of the reasons why I may be rehoming a deck, is because I have other decks that may cover that space. Then I'm letting go this deck, if I may lift it. Okay, so this is a French oracle deck, Lorac Rock, and it's an oracle deck that is basically, like the name says, all about rock personalities, rock celebrities. This is a really cool deck. I actually really like it. I wish though that it did come with, if not keywords, I would have preferred to have keywords, but if not keywords, at least the names of these singers and rockers and songwriters, etc. I recognize 95% of them. That is not the issue. It's just that I do have this kind of I really do prefer to see a keyword. And because, as you can see here, it does have the poker card references, I sometimes decide to use it by reading it as associating it with the way in which I would read if this were indeed a poker deck. But I am not entirely sure whether that is the correct way to read it. And so in some cases, when I go to the guidebook, in some cases I actually see that it corresponds to the way in which I would have read the card, but not always. And so I'm not entirely sure whether that is related to a different way of reading the card, as in when we're reading, you know, these cards, for example. Is it because the persons creating the deck, they looked at these cards and they saw them in a different way than I usually do, or is it due to the personality or the celebrity or the singer or the songwriter that is on the card? So there's a couple of things that I'm not entirely aware, or let's say makes it so that for me I kind of feel like the flow is interrupted whenever I'm using this deck. And that is a little bit of a deal breaker for me, because obviously I do need to concentrate and focus on the cards. So this is a French oracle deck, as I said, but it is a mass market one. So you can actually find it on Amazon France if you wish to buy it. And then moving on, there's another oracle deck. So you will notice that I'm rehoming 95% of not 95% of my oracle decks, that will never happen, but 95% of the decks that I'm rehoming today are oracle decks. And that is also due to the fact that lately I believe there is a 3-to-1 production of oracle decks rather than tarot decks. I don't know why that is. Maybe because here in Australia what we have available, it's obviously Rock Pool, which is 95% oracle decks, and Blue Angel also, I would say even 99% oracle decks. We do not have, so sometimes we do get some Los Carabeo kept in stock here in Australia, and that would most likely be 99% tarot decks. But when it comes to your Llewellyn and your US games, it is rather difficult to source them. You can find them, obviously, especially the new ones. The older ones, no, they're readily available. But the new ones, they are not allowed to resell them in Australia within at least 3 months after the release in the US. So first they get released in the US, then at least 3 months later they are made available in Australia. However, they are not made available in local, so here in the country, but we need to source them from the US. So it is a bit of a pain, let's put it this way. So maybe that's the reason why I have been buying a lot of oracle decks lately. I'm not entirely sure. I am also really I don't know, focusing on Kickstarter campaigns that just have tarot decks, probably to balance this out, but I'm not entirely sure. But we do have a couple of tarot decks. So this one is the Liberation Tarot, and this is probably a bit painful to rehome, but I did come to the decision after a very careful consideration. This was a Kickstarter campaign that I backed a few months ago, whether it was probably also a year ago, if not longer. I honestly don't remember. I always struggle to find the timeline. The reason why I'm rehoming it is because it is not cohesive as well as I thought it would be. It has been sold during the Kickstarter campaign as the new Collective Tarot. I have to say that I don't have the Collective Tarot, which makes me really sad. I would love to have it, but whenever I look at it, I feel like there is a cohesion, there is a narrative that is very well respected, and there is a thread that really unites all of these cards, and you can easily find that thread and you can read thanks to that thread. This deck is not cohesive, at least not to me. It is obviously the cards that are, which is majority of them, that are a collage. I kind of understand the way the images work and everything, but then you will have, because it is a collaborative effort, you will have different card art styles, which makes it kind of difficult for me to stay in the same place. There are some cards that I really love, like for example this Three of Spirals is absolutely gorgeous to me. I really love it, but then again there are other cards that I honestly don't really know what to do with. I get it, this is sign language, I completely understand, but at the same time I would like to see perhaps a keyword, because I just don't know this type of, I did study sign language years ago because my mom couldn't talk anymore, so we wanted to learn it together, but we learned a very different kind of sign language because her motility in her hands was very limited. But in any case, I would have appreciated maybe a keyword. And when it comes to these cards, for example the Chrono Blades, the Four of Blades, I just don't feel like I resonate a lot with these cards. But then the Eight of Blades, or even more so the Seven of Blades, I actually love this card. It is a bit of a hit and miss, and please understand, this is saying a lot more about me rather than about this deck, in the sense that I don't have within myself the capacity to see this deck as a whole, to see the cohesiveness behind this deck. This doesn't mean that it's a deck that will not resonate with you, and I'm sure that there's a lot of people that will definitely appreciate it a lot more than I do, and that's the reason why I'm rehoming it. So I also know that this deck was originally just available as an indie deck out of a Kickstarter campaign, and now I'm not entirely sure, but I seem that I've seen it on Amazon. I'm not entirely sure. In any case, that's a Liberation Tarot. Another tarot deck that I'm rehoming, this is the Coffee and Tarot. This has got one of my favorite backs of all times. I mean, look at these card backs, and they're just absolutely gorgeous. They are reversible if you like to use reversals. And this is a deck that was also the reward from a Kickstarter campaign from, honestly I don't remember, it could have been a year ago, but then I received it much later during the year, I believe. Obviously it is Coffee and Tarot, so this is you know, if you like coffee, if coffee is important to you, it's part of your life, like for so many people, this will definitely resonate with you. It's a deck that has the presence of coffee in pretty much all of the cards, and even the ones that don't show coffee. You know, there's, for example, in the King of Swords, I can see Moroccan tea in here, and you know, there is a sense of things that are related to coffee, and it is definitely very strong as a theme throughout all of this deck. So I don't know whether this deck is still available. Possibly not, I'm not entirely sure. I know that after the Kickstarter campaign there were a few decks that were made available, but I'm not entirely sure whether there still are or not. In any case, I am rehoming it. Then moving on to another couple of decks that I've got here. So these three, no, the next two are indie. So this is the Red Seeds Oracle by Linda Hill, but this is the 3rd edition. Please be aware, this is the 3rd edition. So there are 3 different editions of this deck, and for one, I really got down the rabbit hole with this deck because I really love the images. I love the art style. I find it incredibly powerful. I also really resonate with the affirmations that you can find at the bottom of the card. So I am grief, for example, I am fear. It is incredibly strong and powerful, as I said. I would definitely recommend it for shadow work. This is one of those decks that really is very conducive of that type of work. And as such, I have a lot of other decks that actually fulfill that kind of need for me. And the problem that I have, so not necessarily a problem with the deck, but the problem that I have with the deck is that when you turn the cards, you have some incredibly interesting, admittedly, references to, well, basically, gods and goddesses is mostly females, I believe. And it is interesting, but it is disconnected for me. Just for me, it is disconnected from the front of the cards. Not all of them are completely disconnected. This one I cannot even pronounce. Philofrosine is a Greek goddess of welcome, friendship and kindness. Of course, when you look at the image, you will understand that I am friendships, absolutely. I am truth and lies, for example, aletheia and pseudologos. Personifies the disclosure of truth, imparting and wisdom. The truth can occur when all that is hidden is revealed. Her antagonist was pseudologos, who personified lies. So it tells you a lot about the archetypes or the affirmation that you see at the bottom of the cards, and that makes sense when you turn the cards, but the images themselves, to me, they don't necessarily connect. So I hope I didn't make a mess of explaining the reason why I'm rehoming this deck. I just cannot seem to find a way to work with it, and it's just me. As I said, this is literally just me. And I know that there's also a tarot deck, I believe, that is called the Red Seas Tarot. And I'm actually looking into acquiring the tarot deck because I actually like the artwork. Then we are looking at the Fool's Item Oracle of Enchantment. This is an oracle deck, obviously, and this is a limited edition. It is by the same producers and creators of the 78 tarot family, so there could be the 78 nautical, 78 Halloween, 78 magical, and so on and so forth. And this is literally by the same creators. So what happens is that just as much as the 78 tarot decks are, to me, they feel that they're not really cohesive. This one, ironically, is probably one of the most cohesive of the decks that they produce, because it doesn't completely take you away from the reading. The images are not entirely, you know, they don't look like they're being made by completely different people with completely different art styles and using completely different color palettes. But at the same time, I just don't really resonate with the titles, because these are actually titles and not keywords. And so it just doesn't really, I mean, element air, I can definitely talk about it for sure. Hourglass, possibly, you know, the constraints of time, everything happens outside of time or within time, but it's sticking. You can talk about it, but herbs, yeah, transformation, maybe healing, protection, but herbs is just so vast. And you see, mirror is also maybe shadow work, maybe not. Moon, there's map. These titles point to concepts that are, for me, too vast in order for me to be able to work with them. And this is, again, just me. I'm not saying anything, but you see, when I see chalice, in this case, whether I read it like an Ace of Cups or with, you know, maybe I look at the colors of the water, it's just really taking me away, distracting me, stopping the flow of my reading. And that is something that I honestly don't really like to have whilst I'm working, especially when I'm doing a reading for a client. I just really need to, you know, keep on going and keep the flow going and be able to understand the message coming from the cards. And then the next one is just Dante's Inferno by Paolo Barbieri. This is kind of a similar reason why I'm letting this one go. This one has got not titles, but it does have sentences. So treacherous gardens, rebuke traitor, mystifying architect, inhuman antagonist, sowers of discord, and so on and so forth. The reason why I'm rehoming this one is that this is a bit too spacey for me, and there's a couple of images that are a bit too triggering for me, like this one. And I know that, you know, if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, at this point you probably go, really? I mean, we know you love darker decks, which is entirely true. But there are just some cards that are triggering. So one thing is a dark theme to a deck, one thing is a triggering card. It could be a triggering card without being dark. In this case, it's both. I just cannot really cope with some of them. And I know that this is really well done, because obviously that was the whole purpose of the Inferno, Dante's Inferno. There's so many triggering images in Dante's Inferno, of course. But it's just that I cannot really use this deck. I really don't have any specific space in my practice for this deck. And then, okay, yes. Now, this one will come as a surprise. I know that this is Lenoir by Odonovan. This is a Kickstarter campaign that I backed last year. And I just don't really resonate with the cards. I really like the other tarot deck that has been made thanks to the curated art by Odonovan. So I do like the tarot by I believe the creator's name Waterspawn, and I just don't remember the name. I think it's called The Lonely Dreamer, but I'm not entirely sure, I could be wrong. But in any case, what happens is that I only backed this starter campaign because I thought that it would have paired up really nicely with that tarot deck. And ironically, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't for me, obviously. And so I would just want this deck to go to someone that is going to appreciate it, because otherwise it's just going to stay here and I'm not going to use it. I'm just not going to use it. It is really, look at the backs. I don't know if I can show you, but the backs are really, really beautiful. So this is, again, one of my mistakes. I backed this deck without necessarily, you know, it was a bit of a gamble, but at the end of the day, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and in this case, it just did not work. And then we're almost through all of the decks. There's another couple here. So the Razuli, Great Eastern Oracle, which is ironically one of the decks that actually pairs up quite nicely with the Lonely Dreamer tarot that I was talking about earlier, with the artwork from Odonovan. It's just that I have another one, so there is a couple very similar. I have the Wisdom of Hafiz, which has very, very similar kind of artwork that I actually prefer. I prefer the messages on the card. They are more like affirmation. These ones are, let's say, sentences. There are messages that they do work really well when I use it by itself and I just pull one card. But I do have the other one and it just works a lot better for me. And I have to say, when it comes to the art style as well, it feels a little bit more cohesive rather than this one. I don't mean to say that this one is not beautiful. It is incredibly beautiful, but at the same time, when I have to keep one of them, I just decided to keep the other one. And then I think that we're almost done. So 2 more to go, sorry. So this one is another French oracle deck. It's called Oracle de la Sorcière Guérisseuse. So this is the Oracle of the Healing Witch. It's got 62 cards and it's by Artemis Rose and the illustrations are by Stephanie Gras. I have to say, this is actually a really beautiful deck. It's just that I got it a year and a half ago. I have never used it once and it just is such a pity. It is a little bit, a very similar deck to the Companion of Witch Oracle, which is one of my favorite Oracle decks of all times, because it does have one part of the deck that is about all of the, let's say, herbs and cauldrons and all of the instruments that are used in by the witches themselves, and so that is really interesting. So it's got pretty much all of these cards, and the other part of the deck is reserved to a lot of archetypes, which I really like. And so it makes it very, very similar to this one. It's just that when it comes to the art style, I actually prefer the other one. So again, I do have another deck that covers exactly the same space, but actually works a lot better for me. And that is the main reason why I am choosing to rehome this one. But let me tell you, this is really fantastic. I mean, it is a French Oracle deck and it is originally a mass market publication. But let me tell you, I think that in France they do things just a better way than anywhere else, because this feels like a fantastic indie edition. It feels like a very luxurious kind of product, and really, really amazing product value, because it was very, very affordable. So, but as I said, I do have another one that pretty much works in the same way. And then last but not least, the Cosmic Pearl Oracle. Again, I've worked a lot with this deck because it was the Oracle deck that I used with my members during the month of March when we were looking at the energies of the week videos. I love it, but at the same time, I feel like I know it so well that now I really don't feel like using it. I feel like it's done the job that I needed it to do. It's a really beautiful deck, but I don't think that I will buy this deck or that I will need it, or that I will want to use it or reach for it anytime soon. And so it is just, you know, one of the decks that I am very happy to pass on to somebody else who is going to really appreciate it a lot more than I did. But that was it for today, because I went through all of the decks. I was very quick, as I promised. But in any case, so if you're a Starlight or a Sunlight member, actually I believe that this video is going to be made available also to Fairlight members, and you want to reach out to me, just for you to know, I am based in Australia, so obviously factor that in, because shipping costs to the US are prohibitive sometimes. But if you're based in Australia and you want to reach out to me for any deck, or if you're based overseas, you're happy to pay for shipping, then you know you have the priority. And then after 1 week I will release this video to the general public, and in that case obviously if anyone is interested, I'm Ria. You can send me an email to info@fairlightwellness.com. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.